Thank you. Good morning. Hope you're all doing well. No stressful morning. It seems that, I don't know, how many of you here are teachers? You're teaching, okay? And the rest of you are forced to be here because you saw some free food, or what's happening? Wanted to, okay. That's good too. In your teaching, I wonder if you have the same experiences I have had. When I started teaching about 16 years ago, I don't know if it was because I was younger, looked better, maybe. I don't think I really did. But students seemed much more capable of just paying attention to me talking 16 years ago. And now, in recent years, it seems more and more difficult for them to pay attention. And throughout these years, I've also, my wife and I, we've had 3 children. And they've also gone through a similar level of not paying attention, but for them it starts quite young. Like our 3-year-old, if we tell him to sit down and concentrate, try to breathe for a bit, this is what he does. Done. Let's go play. Playing is a great way to relax and be mindful, or enjoy a state of flow and avoid choking. So I'm going to try to talk about all of those things today. Stressing out students is the subtitle, or the title for this talk, sorry. This is in part, what universities do, right? We stress out students. Would you agree? We stress out students. This is partly what we do. We also try to calm them down a bit through Mental Health Week and initiatives like this, and through office hours and teaching them information. We try to calm them down a bit, but partly what universities do is that we stress students out. That's part of our reputation, right? But we don't always necessarily give them the tools for coping with such stress, and sometimes we ourselves don't have those tools for coping with stress. And because as much as we stress our students out with exams and so on, it is a little known, maybe secret, they stress us out too, right? Especially around evaluation time. And if you're in wherever you are in the university, it's not like stress goes away, right? If you're a graduate student, or you become a sessional, or you become tenured, or whichever level, there's varying degrees of stress, and there's different types of stress, and there's different pressures that are put on you. So it's not like, sometimes we have this vision in our mind, well, if only that grass is greener sort of perception. If only I had that, or if only I got this, if only I had that, I'd have more security, I'd have less stress, everything would be easier. But we're sort of lying to ourselves with that, aren't we? A little bit. Because, once you get there, some things might be better, but there's other things that will challenge you nonetheless. So, we have some tools that we need to experiment with, play around with, and this is a workshop, so I'll make you work a little bit. And if possible, if you have a pencil or a pen and some paper, it would be great if you could also do some writing exercises, because I teach English and writing. So sometimes I incorporate these exercises as ways to cope with stress. And many of you, as teachers, you're also, I assume, researchers as well. You might have to write articles, or at least write your some notes once in a while when you're teaching. So you can apply these things in different ways to your work. So if you have something to write with, type with, then we can start, I think, with this one exercise that some of you might have heard of. It's called free writing. How many of you heard of free writing? Yes. Free writing is when you just basically start writing everything that's on your mind. Virginia Woolf and other modernists, they called it stream of consciousness writing, where you just write whatever's on your mind, and you let that go in whatever direction the stream of your writing goes. So you need not control the stream, but you just let it out. Now, when I was taught this, my instructor told me that you need not have an idea. You could have an idea. You might have an idea or a project that you're working on, and if you're stuck, you're stressed out. When we get stressed out, one thing that happens is we might get paralyzed. Right? We feel like, oh, I can't do anything. We overthink it. So free writing can help you actively get ideas out and get you into a moment of just writing. So what I suggest for you to do, if you want to try this out just for a minute or so, I'll give you a topic if you don't have one, but if you have something in your mind, just think of that topic for a little bit. And once you start writing, you're not allowed to stop writing. That's the trick. Not allowed to stop. Whatever is in your head goes on the page. So for instance, if in your head you have, well, nothing's in my head, you write down, nothing is in my head. If in your head you have monkeys, bananas, and the laundry, you write down monkeys, bananas, laundry. Whatever's in your head, you let it out. Now, if you can come back to a focus, that's good, but you need not. You can just go in whatever way you want to go. So let's start with this exercise. And the topic, if you don't have a topic in mind or a project that you're working on, then you can just write about whatever stresses you out. So we're on point for this presentation. So you can write about stress, and then again, once you get going, you never stop. Just keep going until I tell you to stop. They say the hardest part of working out is putting on your shoes. Heard that expression? I find that's true. The hardest part is we have the equipment, but just getting motivated to exercise becomes a difficulty for me. Any of you? Does that happen? Work too. You know what happens to me when I have to do some work? Usually marking. I start cleaning. My wife likes me during this period. She really enjoys how much I start cleaning. Because everything has to be right. I tell myself, oh, well, I can't do the marking right now. I gotta clean the desk. The desk doesn't look good. I gotta clean it. And at other points, I might say, well, this desk is just not good enough. I should go shopping. And while I'm shopping, I'm like, well, you know, that place over there looks good. Maybe I should call up my wife. We should plan a vacation. It gets really out of hand. But this little exercise, just sitting down, you know, if you have a project or something, and you throw everything away. Don't think about how clean or unclean your desk is. It's probably fine. You just jump right into the activity without judging yourself, thinking about anything, without worrying about the end result. Free writing is one example of that. You can do this free speaking. You can speak in if that's your thing. If it's exercising, just start moving. Just start doing whatever it is that you need to do. That's the point. Sometimes thinking gets in the way of us doing things. We overthink. And especially if our jobs are based around thinking, which many of our jobs are, we're based around analyzing things. So we exercise, that part of our brain where we analyze and overanalyze. And sometimes, often, we can get stuck when we're analytical. Because when you're analytical, partly what you're doing is trying to figure out how things are working. And if you figure out how things are going, then you can't just go. If that makes sense. Right? It's like we have competing minds in our head. I think years ago, I think it was Morehouse who said that we have a mind that's sort of like a coach mind, which is a mind where the coach can tell you how to run better, how to move your arms, how high to kick your knees. But the coach, I know my high school coach, it didn't look like he ever ran in his life. But he knew what was wrong when we were running. But when you run, if you think too much, then it's not helpful, right? You can't run as well. You sort of have to just get in the moment of running and enjoy that feeling. So free writing is a great way, active way, that you can just dive into some work. One way that I tell students to do this is, because I ask them to regularly review. So one way to help them cope with their stress is I tell them, they say, well, I have to study, but I was postponing it, or I have to work on this essay, I'm postponing it. I say, if you have to study, just on Friday, sit down and just free write. Remember everything that you studied. Just free write. What did you summarize? What did you do this week? And that kickstarts it. That's enough for them to maybe postpone the drinking binge and do some studying for a little bit, or start their essay, or whatever it is that they need to work on. Okay, so you have free writing. That's one fun, active way to do things. But the other part of the talk is called mindfulness. Mindfulness is, I think, a bit of a trend right now, right? Which is a healthy trend, I suppose. And mindfulness, how I would like to define it here, because there's a whole range of definitions. But mindfulness is a time when you should be thinking. So it's not quite free writing, but it's more like metacognition. You sort of think about your feelings, you think about your thinking, you become aware of your thoughts and feelings. Or you become aware, or you become aware of bodily sensations. You become more in tune with yourself. So that's how I want to define mindfulness, because I'll distinguish it from another feeling a little later on. But mindfulness is about becoming aware. So in mindfulness, you should think. You should slow down and think about your emotions, your thoughts. So it's sort of, because it's meta-reflective, you can reflect about things. You can reflect about stress in your life. You can reflect about how free writing made you feel, for instance. So it's like meta-writing in this case. This is another exercise I ask students to do. I ask them to write about, usually after their first experience free writing, write about their experience free writing. And you can do this if you want, or you can just tell me, how was it? How many of you enjoyed the free writing? How many of you found it freeing? Not everybody finds it freeing, but how many of you enjoy it? Yes. You enjoyed it? Yes? Just 2, 3? Put up your hands high. Okay, a bunch of you then. You enjoyed it. And you enjoyed it because of what? You can shout it out. Not too loud though, don't scare me, but loud enough. Why did you enjoy free writing? Yeah, one great purpose of this is it's sort of, if you have to work on a project, you have this project in mind, you have a bunch of things you need to do, but you have other things rolling around in your head. Sometimes it just, it declutters. You get that stuff out. Then you can focus on what you need to focus on. Yeah. Other people find it just gets them started, right? Gets them going on what they need to do. Still others, they find it helpful for generating ideas. So it becomes like brainstorming. So they might talk about, chickens for a little bit. They don't know why they're talking about chickens, but they're writing about chickens. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, there we go. I've found a solution to the problem I've had on this research I've been doing, and it came through, for some reason, when I got distracted talking about chickens through free writing. And that can happen. Because sometimes when you don't think about what you need to think about, you find the thought that you were looking for when you were thinking, if that makes sense. And then when it comes to mindfulness, mindfulness is, as again, I'm defining it today, is not necessarily that. It's more like you slowing things down and assessing yourself. Assessing your life, assessing the rhythm of your life. How does your day make you feel? How does your work, what is it that stresses you out? And try to be specific. How do you feel in certain circumstances? So let's try a mindfulness writing exercise. Will you try to describe all the feelings and sensations that you have at this moment. So in this moment, right now, how do you feel? And then I'm going to give you some different prompts, and I'll ask you to think about some other things. But first, let's start off with, how do you feel right now? I see you're drinking coffee. So if you're drinking coffee, how does that coffee feel? Like, I really want you to not just drink the coffee mindlessly, but you drink the coffee and you're like, this feels warm. Try to describe every sensation that you're feeling. How does a chair, these wonderfully plastic, comfortable chairs, how does it feel on your ass? How are your shoes? Is your shirt too tight? Have you noticed that ring on your finger? How does that feel? So another thing that you can do is, with this exercise, you can focus on one very simple thing. Like, so if you have to wear a watch, or if you're eating a candy, an exercise I do in class is make everybody eat a caramel. Very slowly, though. They have to unwrap it, they have to put it in their mouth, and they have to describe, then, as that's occurring, everything that happens. So they're in that moment, but they're aware as precisely as possible. They're mindful of the experience of enjoying candy. So this is good homework for all of you. You now have an excuse to enjoy some candy. Oops, I should open this up. I wasn't mindful. I didn't open the top. So in the interest of time, I'll give you a couple more pieces of advice. So mindfulness is about being aware. But sometimes we look for ways that stress can escape from our lives. This is not going to happen, because life is stressful. Stress is not necessarily a negative thing. Stress just occurs. And stress can be a good thing. Stress can be a challenge. Sometimes we need stress. Sometimes we should seek out something stressful to push ourselves beyond our expectations. Stress becomes a problem when it's overwhelming. When we don't have routine ways, we don't build a habit of coping with stress. We don't build the skills we need to be in the moment. So one frequent way that students are stressed out, and probably academics as well, is through exams. We stress them out regularly through exams. And sometimes I've noticed brilliant students do horribly on exams. You might have experienced this in your life. And there's a book out now, it's actually called Choke. This is about choking. So you can check that out. But the exercises that are, one exercise from that book, and the researcher, is right before a test or an exam, if you write about all the anxiety that you're feeling, apparently you'll do much better during the exam. Because you get all that clutter, as mentioned here, you get it out. So it's good. Another piece of advice you can give to students, and tell yourselves too, anytime you're stressed out. Just write that stress out. Acknowledge that it exists. How does it make you feel? Let it out. Let it go. And you're less likely then to choke. And what's even better than letting away the choking is allowing yourself to flow. Flow, to distinguish it from mindfulness, is when you're in a state where you're not really thinking. You're just doing. So you're not thinking about the sensations. You're not analyzing how you're feeling. You're just doing something. So sometimes mindfulness can get you into flow. Because you start off, you're eating the caramel and you're paying attention to how you're feeling, and then you just get lost in that moment of enjoying the caramel. Or if you're exercising, you're doing some push-ups, and once you figure out how to do a push-up, you move from the analytical mind, and you start to perform the push-ups, and you stop thinking about it, you just start doing it, you can hit a state of flow. People do this when they're running, when they're exercising. There's ways you can meditate. That doesn't mean you have to sit down and do this, or shave your head, or buy a turban, or grow a beard like this. You don't need to do any of that. But if you strive for these moments of flow, then it can be very helpful. And to help you conjure that moment of flow, I'm going to tell you about my daughter and grapes, because she loves grapes. When she was in preschool, I put out some grapes for breakfast on her plate, and I was shocked at the shrieks of joy that she had over the grapes. Grapes! 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 She was yelling grapes. Excited about grapes. We get grapes for breakfast. She was dancing, singing, running around her plate. Grapes, grapes, grapes for breakfast. That's not all I fed her. Don't call social services. But she was really excited about the grapes. And I asked her, why do you like the grapes? Oh, she said, they're so good. She couldn't even express how good they were. She was so excited. Juicy, good, yummy. And she just, She was mindful about how it tasted for a bit, because I asked her some questions. Then she got into the whole flow of just enjoying that moment with the grapes. Each of you have a grapes moment in your life. I'm sure you have. At one point in your life, you might have had a moment where everything just seemed to flow. You were at one with the universe. Maybe it was watching a sunset. Maybe it was riding a horse. Maybe it was going kayaking. Maybe it was whatever it was. It's in your life somewhere, right? So the last exercise I want you to do is I want you to conjure that grapes moment. So write it down for yourself. It's very important that you write it down. Write down a moment in your life where everything seemed to be at one with you. Everything clicked. The whole universe seemed to be in tune with you and you with it. So was there ever such a time, and again, I'm confident there was, because most of us had childhoods. So write about that. And as you write about that, I'll finish up by saying that to build the skills and habit necessary for coping with stress in your life, because stress won't go away, and again, it can also be a good thing. If you conjure this grapes moment before you're doing an activity or up to a challenge, if you conjure that moment and try to replicate it, just get your headspace there, your mind, get it there, and you enter into whatever activity that you're doing, you're more likely to repeat that state of flow, of performing well under pressure. So don't forget your grapes, and thank you very much.